My girlfriend once said to me, "If you can't handle me, just say so." At the time, I thought it was just a playful challenge, something she said with that mix of confidence and fire she always had. But little did I know, those words would come back to haunt us both in the most unforgettable way. Let me take you back to that night. The night that changed everything between us. We'd been together for about 8 months. 8 months of ups and downs, but mostly I thought we were good. She was stunning, confident, and had this magnetic energy that turned heads wherever we went. Honestly, at first, I found that magnetic pull pretty attractive. She knew exactly what she wanted in life and wasn't afraid to take it. That kind of confidence is rare, and I admired it. But as time went on, some cracks started to appear. Tiny, almost unnoticeable at first, but enough to make my stomach twist with discomfort. It began with small things, like when we were out with friends and she'd correct me mid-story, loudly, saying I got details wrong. Or when she interrupted conversations just to steer attention back to herself. At first I brushed it off, telling myself maybe I was just too sensitive. Then came the awkward jokes at my expense, especially around my co-workers. Little jabs that made everyone uneasy. She'd laugh it off like it was all harmless fun. But I could see the looks exchanged behind my back. I was the punchline, and it wasn't funny anymore. Now last Friday was supposed to be different. My company was hosting its annual dinner at this really upscale restaurant downtown, and I was excited. I'd been talking about it for weeks, telling her how important it was for my career. I wanted her to meet my boss and some senior colleagues, people I'd been working hard to impress. She showed up looking incredible in a sleek black dress that drew attention the moment we walked in. I could tell my boss noticed her too. The conversation was flowing nicely, and I started to relax. Maybe, just maybe, I'd been overthinking everything about her behavior. But then, the drinks started flowing, and so did the trouble. It began innocently enough, or at least, that's what I told myself. One of my colleagues was sharing a story about a project I'd recently led when she cut him off mid-sentence. Out came this embarrassing tale about how I'd gotten hopelessly lost using GPS over the weekend. She laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. Everyone else chuckled, but I caught the confusion in my colleague's eyes. When my boss asked about my recent achievements, instead of letting me answer, she jumped in again, telling everyone about how I'd burned dinner 3 nights in a row and nearly set off the smoke alarm. I was sitting there, my face burning with humiliation, watching my credibility unravel in real time. But the worst was yet to come. She launched into this whole saga about my irrational fear of spiders, complete with exaggerated reenactments of me screaming and jumping onto a chair. My boss shifted uncomfortably, and I saw some colleagues exchange awkward glances. All those months of building professional respect felt like they were crumbling right before me. I tried to brush it off, laughed a little, hoping maybe she'd stop. I even gently touched her arm and suggested we change the subject. But she just shrugged and told me to lighten up, that everyone was having a good time. Then during a quiet moment, I leaned in and quietly asked her to tone it down. That's when she said it, loud enough for the entire table to hear. "If you can't handle me, just say so." The room fell silent. All eyes were suddenly on me. My boss's eyes locked onto mine, waiting to see what I'd say. My colleagues stopped mid-bite, their attention fixed. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "I can't handle you." She laughed, clearly thinking I was joking, that I was playing along with her dramatic flair. She told everyone I was so funny and dramatic, but I wasn't joking. My tone was dead serious. My expression must have finally registered with her, because the smile on her face faltered for the first time that night. I excused myself, pretending to go to the bathroom. But instead of going inside, I stepped outside and made a phone call. My best friend had been telling me for weeks that I deserved better. He'd offered to help me move my stuff out of her place, and I'd always dismissed the idea, hoping things would get better. But now, I knew it was time. I told him I needed his help tomorrow morning, and he didn't hesitate. He'd be there with a truck at 9 a.m. sharp. The rest of the dinner was unbearable. I plastered on a fake smile, making small talk, while she kept going with her performance, oblivious that she'd crossed a line I could never uncross. When we got home, she was buzzing, talking about how much fun she'd had, how everyone loved her stories, I told her I had work to catch up on and stayed up late in the living room. Not because I had work, but because I couldn't stand to be near her. She fell asleep quickly, probably still riding the high of being the center of attention. Saturday morning came, and she left early for yoga, mentioning she might grab brunch with her sister afterward. Perfect timing. At exactly 9 a.m., my friend showed up with 2 other guys and the moving truck. I'd been living at her place for 4 months, so I had a lot of stuff. Clothes, books, electronics, kitchen gadgets I'd bought, furniture I contributed, everything. Even pictures of us, which I quietly threw into a garbage bag. The hardest part was packing the things that symbolized the good times, concert tickets, souvenirs from trips, even the coffee mug she'd bought me that said, "World's okayest boyfriend." At the time, I'd found it endearing. Now, it just felt like mockery. In just 2 hours, every trace of me was gone from her apartment. I left my key on the kitchen counter with a simple note. "You were right. I couldn't handle you. Don't contact me." But I wasn't done yet. She had this habit of sharing everything on social media. Our relationship, our dates, fights, makeups, everything was content for her. So, I went through her posts and methodically untagged myself from every photo, every post, every story from the past 8 months. Then I blocked her on every platform, not angrily, not dramatically, just efficiently erasing myself from her digital life the same way I'd erased myself from her physical space. I also reached out to mutual friends, not to badmouth her, but to let them know we'd broken up. I asked to be left out of group events where she'd be present, politely, but firmly explaining that I needed space. The final move was texting her sister. They were close, and I knew she'd be the first person my girlfriend would call once she found out what happened. I sent a simple message explaining that we'd broken up, I'd moved out, and while I bore no ill will, I wasn't changing my mind. I asked her to help her sister understand that contacting me wouldn't change anything. By noon, I was in my new studio apartment across town, a place I'd secretly viewed and put a deposit on 2 days earlier, after one of those particularly bad fights. My phone started buzzing around 2 p.m. First, confused texts asking where I was, then concerned calls, then angry messages demanding I call her back immediately. I didn't respond. The calls kept coming all afternoon. Apparently she went home to find the apartment empty, my key on the counter, and my note. Her voicemail became increasingly frantic as she called my work, my family, anyone who might know where I was. Her sister called me around 4 p.m., surprisingly calm and understanding. She mentioned she'd seen some of my girlfriend's behavior at family gatherings and wondered how I'd put up with it. She promised to talk to her sister about respecting my boundaries, but warned me it wouldn't be easy. That evening, I turned off my phone and went to the movies alone. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely relaxed. No one was embarrassing me, belittling me, or making me the butt of their jokes. Sunday morning, the attempts to contact me escalated. She apparently spent the night cycling through our mutual friends, trying to get someone to tell her where I was, or to convince me to talk to her. Most friends respected my request for space, but a few tried to mediate. I sent a group message thanking them, but explaining this wasn't a fight to be resolved. It was a permanent decision. Then came a text from an unknown number. She'd borrowed someone else's phone. Her message was long and rambling, apologies, explanations, anger, bargaining. She claimed she'd been joking, that everyone knew she was just being playful, and that I was overreacting to harmless fun. But the part that stung the most was when she said she'd made me more interesting. That her stories showed my human side and helped me connect with people. She genuinely believed humiliating me in front of my professional colleagues was a favor. I screenshotted the message and blocked the number. Monday brought a new challenge. She showed up at my office building during lunch, waiting at the entrance. Security wouldn't let her upstairs, but she lingered in the lobby. One of my colleagues from the dinner spotted her and warned me. I called security and explained the situation. They agreed to escort me to my car through a side exit. As I left, I saw her through the glass doors, glued to her phone, probably hoping I'd respond to her new messages. The week went on with her escalating attempts to contact me. She sent flowers to my office with a card that said, "We need to talk." I had them donated to a nearby hospital. She even tried to have food delivered to my old apartment, forgetting I no longer lived there. Her sister called again, sounding exhausted. Apparently my ex had been calling her multiple times a day, convinced that if she explained herself, I'd understand and come back. She'd rewritten the whole story in her head, insisting that I misunderstood her intent, and everyone had been having a great time at dinner. I told her sister that was the problem, her inability to take responsibility for the impact of her actions, even when the consequences were crystal clear. Then, Thursday brought the most revealing moment. A colleague from the dinner came to me privately. He said my ex somehow got his number and called him, wanting confirmation that everyone was laughing with her, not at me. He told her the truth. He said her behavior made everyone uncomfortable, that my boss commented later on how inappropriate it was, and several people felt bad for me. When she argued that she was just having fun, he told her that humiliating your partner isn't fun for anyone except the one doing it. She got angry, accused him of lying, and hung up when he suggested maybe she should reflect on why I left instead of trying to rewrite the story. 1 week later, I was starting to breathe again. My new apartment was small but peaceful. I was sleeping better than I had in months. Work felt easier, knowing I wouldn't have to worry about humiliation in front of colleagues again. That afternoon, her sister called with an update. My ex had been telling anyone who would listen her version of events, but the responses weren't what she expected. Even her own friends started questioning her behavior. When she told them about the dinner, expecting sympathy, several pointed out that embarrassing your partner in front of coworkers isn't okay, even as a joke. Her sister said she finally broke down and admitted maybe she went too far, but insisted it came from a place of love. She claimed she was trying to make me seem more relatable and human to my stuffy colleagues. I told her sister intentions don't erase impact. After 8 months of incidents like this, Friday night wasn't an isolated mistake. It was a pattern I couldn't accept anymore. The weekend passed quietly. No calls, no surprise visits, no borrowed phones. I even managed to meet up with friends I'd neglected, no longer tied down by managing her social needs. Monday morning brought closure in a way I didn't expect. My boss called me into his office, and I panicked, thinking the drama had followed me. Instead, he wanted to talk about my recent project performance and a potential promotion. Then he mentioned Friday's dinner. He told me he was impressed with how professionally I handled the difficult situation. He said, "Leadership often reveals itself in how someone manages personal challenges without letting them affect work relationships. While she thought she was exposing your weaknesses, she actually demonstrated your strength to the people who matter most for your career." That afternoon, I got one final message. From her actual number. It was different this time. Shorter, less desperate, more resigned. She said she'd been thinking and was starting to understand why I left. She apologized for not listening sooner and hoped I'd be happy. I didn't respond, but I didn't block her either. It felt like an ending, not another manipulation. 3 weeks later, I heard through mutual friends she'd started dating someone new. Apparently, she was being very careful with her behavior, learning from our relationship. And honestly, I felt genuinely happy for both of them. Not because I wanted revenge, but because everyone deserves a chance to grow and do better. Looking back, I realized that dinner wasn't really about the embarrassment, painful as it was. It was about respect. She'd consistently chosen momentary entertainment over my dignity, and Friday night was just the most public example of a private pattern. Some say I should have talked to her more, given her chances to change. But after 8 months of small incidents and conversations that led nowhere, I learned some people only understand consequences, not words. The best part isn't that I got revenge. It's that I got my self-respect back. I stopped accepting behavior that made me feel small and discovered that walking away with dignity is sometimes the most powerful response of all. She asked if I could handle her. I gave her an honest answer. What she didn't expect was that I'd handle the situation on my own terms. Quietly, completely, with no room for negotiation or manipulation. Sometimes the most devastating thing you can do to someone who thrives on drama is to remove yourself from their stage entirely. I can handle a lot of things, but I couldn't handle being with someone who thought humiliating me was their entertainment. And I'm okay with that boundary. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more real-life tales of relationships, respect, and resilience, please hit that subscribe button. It means the world to us. Thanks for listening.